Hey man, what's up everybody? It's January 15th, 2023, 2:07 p.m. Think the Bills are smacking the Dolphins. I'm not sure. I haven't seen the game yet, but yeah, man, it's my first episode of a series I'm starting called The Observation. Right? I'm gonna have just commentary to videos I see that I feel can provide value to who I'm trying to reach, right? But with that being said, it's your boy Coffee Kid, where we talk about what it was and what it is. So tune in, listen, like, comment, subscribe. If you disagree, agree. If you just have any thoughts, man, I'm gonna have the video linked in the description as well as some of my information. But appreciate anyone who watches, and yes, sir. Let's get into it.
Throughout human history, many societies have been led by some kind of king or ruler. And when that king dies, he passes down his power and inheritance to his firstborn son.
This is often called the right of the firstborn, or the birthright.
And this practice wasn't just for kings, but also for families.
Yeah, fathers would pass on their authority to the firstborn as the rightful heir of the family estate.
But what if the firstborn son isn't the most qualified? What if they're bad for the job?
Yeah, history has shown that firstborns often abuse their birthright, using it for personal gain, leading to conflict and violence.
Now, the Bible came into existence in a culture where the right of the firstborn was normal and taken for granted.
But, interestingly, in the story of the Bible, God consistently overturns this cultural norm.
Really?
Yeah, from the beginning, God regularly selects the younger sibling, the latecomer, and gives them the birthright. For example, in the story of the first two brothers, God elevates the second-born, Abel, over Cain, his firstborn brother.
Oh, right. And later, God says that the blessing and the inheritance will go to Isaac, Abraham's second-born, instead of Ishmael, his first.
And then when Isaac has two sons, God promises that the younger one, Jacob, will have authority over his older brother, Esau, and inherit God's blessing.
I'm seeing a clear pattern.
And it continues. Later, when Israel wants a king of their own, they choose this tall, powerful ruler named Saul, who then has a firstborn son named Jonathan. But God chooses the next king from a low-status family, a boy named David, who is the youngest among 8 brothers.
So for the God of the Bible, the birthright doesn't necessarily belong to those who are first or most important.
Right, God consistently challenges human-made systems of power and value that tend towards abuse, and he turns them upside down.
But this doesn't end all the conflict in the Bible. Often, the older sibling is furious about being passed up.
True, and just as often the younger sibling who gets the birthright abuses their power too. In fact, almost all the wars and conflicts in the Bible are framed as sibling rivalries.
You mean violence between actual brothers, like Cain killing Abel?
Yes, but also the tribes and nations that descend from these earlier sibling rivals. If you track with all the genealogies in the biblical story, you see that everybody's related. It's a huge family feud.
So whether the older or the younger gets the authority, the human family is stuck in a never-ending sibling rivalry over who gets to be first.
And so here we have to turn to the story of Jesus. His earliest followers called him the firstborn of all creation.
The firstborn of creation. What does that mean?
It's a statement that describes his status. In the New Testament, Jesus is portrayed as God become human, the eternal Son of God who brought creation into being and has all authority.
So if anyone deserves the ultimate birthright, it's Jesus.
Yes, and Jesus did claim that God's royal power was arriving in a new way through himself. But it was power redefined.
Yeah, Jesus said that if you want to be first, you need to become last.
And he said that people with real authority are those who serve. In fact, this redefinition of power is explored in an early Christian poem about Jesus.
While he was in his very nature God, he didn't exploit his equality with God for self-advantage. Rather, he emptied himself of status and power and became a servant.
Jesus joined the poor and served them. And instead of fighting his rivals, he served them too. Jesus showed that true power is displayed through self-giving love.
But Jesus did confront those in power.
Yes, he challenged Israel's leaders for using their power to benefit themselves at the expense of the many.
And that's what got him killed. Like angry firstborn sons, the leaders leveraged their power to have Jesus executed.
But you can't really kill the firstborn over creation. He's the author of life itself. And so Jesus rose from the dead, and he was elevated as ruler over heaven and earth. And this earned him a new title, the firstborn from among the dead.
Then Jesus told his followers that all of his authority, his birthright, and this blessing, he was sharing it with them as sisters and brothers.
So that they could create communities that are a new kind of family, ordered by a Jesus-style redefinition of power.
These are families that set aside rivalries and invite everyone to share the responsibility of being sons and daughters in a new royal family.
And when Jesus' people discover that real power is love, that's when they truly become the family of the firstborn.
Wow. First off, I'm gonna say the graphics are crazy on that. Whoever produced that is really talented. Yeah, it just makes me wonder, like, when you compare that to today, what are the kingdoms today that we would consider are in some turmoil, whether explicit or kind of in the shadows, as I guess technology has allowed us to operate. Are the people who are, calling the shots for whatever world power it may be, China, the U.S., Russia. I mean, those are kingdoms of today, right? I don't know. Would y'all say that the way it is are we being led with love, right? Do we interact with the world at large with love? And I mean, it's a dope video. It's really a dope video for the sake of how it explains this section of scripture. But where I want to go with this is like, damn, like look around us, bro. A lot of the stuff said in here is more relevant than ever, and you could dive into the history of it. Like, you could dive into how we came to be as different groups of people, how we moved, how we were nomads at first. I mean, that's a whole nother subject, but regardless of where we are today, where we stand today, it's interesting when you compare it to what is discussed in this video. Like the power struggle, But as a citizen, right, like as just the everyday guy, like, what is it? It really doesn't do anything for you to partake in. Like, the greater implication would just be your safety and your survival. Like, if your country is like on the brink of war and on the brink of being invaded or something, yeah, then it becomes like imminent, right? But in a first world country like America or China or whatever it may be, like, it's not really realistic. So, like, it doesn't affect your day-to-day. Like, you still just got to go out and make money and be able to sustain, like, a level of life, like, just a level of, everyday life. Being able to eat, drink, whatever it may be, being able to do things you want, right? But, yeah, man, it's a dope video. Really a dope video. It's interesting how you see what whether or not you believe in the faith aspect of it. I mean, you can go and you can debate with historical doctorates and people of that credential according to our human systems of credentialing others and ourselves, right? You can go to those people and you can hear from them. Like, the people in the Bible existed. Like Matthew, who wrote the verse where it says, if those who are first will be last, he was a tax collector. Like, these are documented people who had backgrounds. Like, imagine a tax collector back in the day, man. You're hated. Like, you work for the Romans, who are a colonizer of Israel. Like, you worked for the other side. That'd be like, I don't even know. That'd be like, I'm not even gonna make a comparison, to be honest, because it would piss people off. But it is what it is, man. Like, he was an unliked person working for the colonizer. And he turned around and followed Jesus. And, you know, if you're a tax collector, you're one of the people in the population who's articulate. You can add, subtract, and you can, you know, speak to a certain degree of people, a certain status of people, because of the role that you were entrusted to do for the colonizing regime, right? So that's who's writing this stuff, bro. Like, that's the author. So to me, his opinion is noteworthy. His opinion on the Jewish Pharisees and Sadducees who ruled and taught religion, still under the you know, ultimately under the control of the Romans, right? So I mean, it's interesting. Like, you even see it today. You see, like, I'm gonna take my country for example, and I'm gonna be labeled whatever, this, that, and the third, but like, we're one nation under God, right? We stand up every day in front of the pledge and we say this, right? But I mean, you look at the fruits, right? You judge a tree by its fruits. That's also in the book of Matthew. It came from Jesus's mouth, according to Matthew. So that's really the closest thing to a primary resource we will get, right? You know, you could go into the debate of the Bible's been rewritten by this people and that people, and okay, that may be so, right? But just throw that out the window and focus on the teaching. You can debate the origins, right? But what about the teaching, right? What about the fruit? The fruit is the teaching. The teaching, right, is indicative of the tree and what it looks like and what the tree brings life, right? So we look at our system at large, and I could be out here saying all idealistic things. Like, yes, what I'm saying right now is very idealistic. But the reality of it is the tree is indicative of the fruits it produces and vice versa. So, I mean, look at it, man. Like, Jim Crow ended 1965. Realistically, it didn't fully end until, you know, at the earliest 70, 75. That's pretty recent, man. Like, that's pretty recent, man. I mean, I got an old head who's a mentor of mine out in Baltimore, right? He grew up in rural Northern Virginia in the, you know, country boy, right? Was getting chased around by people in the KKK, racist left and right, right? I mean, he's still alive today, bro. Like, you think the people who are chasing him around, like, yes, socially, our social structure determines that we are not a racist country. We are a nation under God, right? But our governance structure, which is how we interact with each other internally, says something else, man. It really does. It says something else. So when you take that all as a whole, right, and you say that's the fruits of America, that's the fruits of really the standard. America is the standard in many ways of what a country should look like. And realistically, it is the best country. It has one of the highest standards of living. But even that may be the case, right? Look at all the past kingdoms like this video talks about, where, I mean, if you're in a kingdom, you create a livable and an ideal society for your citizens, right? To eat, drink, be able to survive and suffer as not as much as the next nation or whatever it may be, right? But still, even as a nation that we would consider the benchmark, like America, much of the fruits, right? The fruits of our actions, that's indicative of the tree, man. So it really doesn't matter how great your nation is, right? We see the same things. But, hey, man, it is what it is. It's your boy Coffee Kid, where we talk about what it was and what it is, man. Just want to encourage discussion and commentary. So if you have any thoughts, feel free to comment. If you disagree, feel free to comment. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe, man. I'm out.